All right, friend, it is halfway through 2021. And at the beginning of the year, if you listen to our podcast in January, we talked a lot about what do you want for your life in 2021? Rather than goal setting, we talked about what do you vision for your life? What are your passions? What are the things that keep you going? How do you want your lifestyle to look? Today, I welcome my dear friend, Jessica Horton, to talk about resetting some of that vision if it got lost in the last 6 months. If you're anything like the two of us, life is pretty crazy, and it feels like it's starting to get back to somewhat of a normalcy. Whatever normal is, I use air quotes when I say this, but what are we missing? What is it that we've fallen back on? Are we where we wanted to be? Are we doing the things that set our souls on fire? What are the things that we want to do? And setting your soul on fire could be that you want a date night every week, or you want to try a new restaurant, or you want to read a book, or you want to be able to do whatever it is that is individually you, not what somebody else is subscribing to, but rather what fills your cup up so that you can pour onto others. So tune in and listen to this wonderful conversation with my friend Jessica Horton, who is a licensed coach around finding your true passions and uncovering those so that you can live your day truly in the life vision that you have for yourself each and every day of your life. Jessica, thank you so much for joining the Thrive Forward podcast. I get to see you 2 days in a row since we had lunch yesterday.
So excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited for you to share your insight and your knowledge with our community as we kind of take this moment to reset ourselves in the middle of the year. It has been a crazy 18 to 24 months. It's hard to believe that some of this has been that long.
Yes.
That we have been through, and not that we hadn't been through things before that. Of course we have, but it has been packed into multiple things over the last 18 months. And kind of how do we get back to that center part of how we wanted our year to look for ourselves? So I just love for us to maybe hear a little bit before we get into the meat of the conversation, a little bit about you and what you do. So people are like, who's this chick giving us this great insight? Not that you don't have great insight, but tell us about you and your experiences and how you ended up in the space that you are today.
Gosh, I always start out by saying 2020 was the biggest blessing of my life. And I know that sounds so crazy to some people because I know the tragedy of 2020 is not lost on me. There was a lot of horrible things that happened, but for me and my family, it caused us to slow down, right? Like so many people, we were on that kind of rat race, that wheel. And it really just caused us to intentionally pause because we didn't have a choice, right?
Right. The kids' activities stopped, school stopped, everything stopped.
Everything stopped at the same time. So March 2020, so I'm a former event planner, corporate meeting and event planner. I've run my own freelance business for about the past 7 years, but working for the same corporate clients that I had when I was in corporate. But so I had done that for the last 7 years. I was booked out completely for the entire year of 2020. And then March hit, I think it was March 5th, and everything went away for me. Every single event was canceled off the calendar for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was scary, right? Terrifying. But at the same time, it was like this weight. This instant weight that had been lifted off of me. And I will say at the same time, a month later, my husband was laid off from his job. So no income, no security, no nothing. We were really, but at the same time, it really felt like, okay, we're given this time. We're given this space. I am turning 40 this year. Next year. It was the next year. I just turned 40 this year. But I was reaching this space where I was like, what do I want to do with the next, 40, 50 years of my life? Where do I want to be? And I had kind of been in this space of just trying to get clarity on that, but not having that time and space to do that. So COVID really allowed me that time.
Yeah.
So I completely pivoted my world. I dove headfirst into this world of coaching. So I immersed myself in anything I could find. At the time, I wasn't looking for a certification or anything. I just wanted to get clear on what the space of coaching was. I had a totally different perspective on coaching. I thought it was giving advice to your friends. And I'm like, I already coach. I'm a great coach. That's what I do. But it really, I really did a lot of deep diving and digging. And through that, it was so much self-reflection, right? Mm-hmm. And so much diving into who I am and who I want to be. And I think the rest is history. I mean, I dove into this. I reached out to you. You were a huge catalyst in this crazy adventure of mine, just trying to get clarity on what I should do next, who I should reach out to in this coaching space. And you connected me with Shannon Scottler, who is like an angel to me. And she's amazing. I could go on for years about her, but she connected me with Learning Journeys, which is the coaching certification program that I just actually completed this month. So, I know, super exciting. So yeah, that's who I am. That's what I've been up to.
Well, I think you share so many sentiments with a lot of people. If we really sit back and we can focus on all of the obstacles and things that may have been thrown at us in 2020, because there are ones that affected us individually as a family, within our communities, within our state, with the murder of George Floyd, racial unrest, COVID, all of the things, right? It was like a piling on of everything over time. And to really, I remember last year too, taking the time to finally be present with my kids and listen to them. I remember the first week we were home and I was working and my daughter came down to read to me. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you knew how to read that good.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like a gut check for me as a mom to be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're not as present. Because again, that rat race or that wheel that we're always spinning on. Yeah. And now as the world starts to open up again, are we going to make that choice to find ourselves in that same situation? Or are we going to push into that space that we really wanted to? And how did we start looking at 2021 in January when we, set all of our New Year's resolutions and goals
here and your goals.
And you're inundated by gym memberships and discounts and this smooth slimming shake. And now it's summertime and it's hot girl summer.
Yeah.
Whatever the kids are saying now.
All the stuff. I don't know. I'll go ask my 12-year-old.
Right. Can she fill us in on all of the things? Maybe I'll go watch a couple TikTok videos and I'll be like on
Never
par.
Thought I would be that mom, but I am a lot less cool than I thought I'd be at this age, at this stage.
I don't know. I'm still holding on to the cool card.
Good.
Nobody has told me I'm not cool yet. I'm sure they say it in their head.
You wait for that 12-year-old. You just wait.
I have a few years, 4 years. Yes. 4 years. We'll be there and I'll be calling you and saying, what happened? Oh, but okay. I think in the element of like that aspect of what happened, we're halfway through the year. What happened to our, vision that we had for the year? At the beginning of the year on the podcast, we talked about this element of goal setting and transitioning that rather into like vision casting for your life. What do you want your life to look like? How do you, coach somebody through a situation when they have set something insight that they want to get to and they've lost that passion for it, or life has gotten in the way, or some transition has happened? How do we ignite that fire again?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. So when you reached out to me to do this, it was kind of so timely because I feel like even for myself, I'm going through that, right? So I started that year strong and I had my goals and I had my vision of what I wanted the year to be. And I'm moving along and I think I'm doing okay, but it was kind of like this halfway point where I felt a little bit like am falling off. It's fallen off the rails a little bit. And so I was starting to think about, okay, what are these things that I need to do to even get myself back on track, right? So I think the first thing, which is the most important, and this can happen right the beginning of the year, but also in this reset point, is just really getting clarity on one, who you are in the past. So if you have not done any work around your values and who you have been in the past, do that now. If you did not do that in January, this is the time to do it. Yesterday, do it right now. I think that's so important, is to really, you need to locate who you were in the past and then who you are right now before you can even determine who you want to be or who you're becoming, right? So I think some big pieces of that are resetting, what are your core values? So many people have an idea of what their core values are, but I don't think many people, including myself until recently, really determine how they want to show up in those values and how they want to honor those values each and every day, right? So really stepping back and getting clarity on what your top 6 to 8 core values are. There are a lot of exercises you can do online. I do a really cool floor plan activity with my clients that really, again, locates kind of who you were in the past, where your values came from in your childhood, what kind of created those values, and then how those values are showing up in your adulthood. How are they serving you? What are some that maybe you could probably release that don't serve you any longer? So I think that's a big piece, is really just getting some clarity around those top core values. And then I always think boundary reset. That's my next one, because for me, especially, I would say coming off of everything around George Floyd, right? So you and I have talked just a little bit about this when we met yesterday, but I come from a white household. My parents, my mom and my stepdad are both white. They're both police officers. So that's a whole nother can of worms to unpack at a later date. But I think I spent so much time this summer or last summer, and then again this fall, just really setting what my boundaries were for me and for my family, and really being intentional about those values. And it was a sort of protection for me, right? Just to protect what is important to me, what I'm willing to spend my energy on, what I'm not. And so I think resetting what those boundaries are. So what they were at the beginning of the year, re-looking at them, do those still serve you right now? And if so, have they slipped? Have you let go of some of those? I think that's a huge thing too, is that boundary reset. And then the third one I always think is just resetting that intention. So the vision cast, looking at that vision that you set for your life in January. I think that can happen almost quarterly or, twice a year. It doesn't have to be January 1st. We set our intention, we set our vision of our year, and this is what it's going to be. It's always good to pause, reset. I had an instructor that told me that she does hers every season. So when the seasons change, she re-looks at her intentions. So I think that's such a good practice to just reassess, what is that vision that I set for myself? And then, is it serving me now? And if so, how can I bring it back into the forefront?
Yes, I love that seasons part, especially for those of us that live in Minnesota and actually experience 4 seasons.
Yes, it makes it quite easy to remember.
Yeah, I want to dig in a little bit more to this boundary part of things and have this conversation, because I think we hear this word so often right now, and it's almost like a buzzword, right?
Yeah.
That you got to have boundaries, you got to set boundaries. But what does that look like in real practice? Especially for, those women like we are, right? Mamas, busy, multiple hats we're wearing. I mean, could be, men too, but, the majority of our audience is female. And those good, loyal men, we love you too. But for the majority of our audience, it feels like this constant element of, I'm juggling all of these things. I want to be all of these people to everybody. What does that boundary look like? What does that really mean and look like in practice?
Yeah, I would say I know it sounds really cliche, but I got to say it because it's just on my mind. That whole piece about if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all around awareness. Like you just need to get aware and centered on what makes sense for you in your life. So if it is for you, if it feels good to like write a list of the top things that you want to do, everything else that falls out of that list, we've got to be okay with saying no.
Right.
Your girl, Erica, was texting with me today. I hope she's okay with me sharing this. I think she will. Otherwise, I'll text you later and tell you to cut it. But she said today that she is hearing friends now say they don't have the capacity. Actually, I think she posted on her Instagram, so it's okay that I share it, but that they don't have the capacity for that. Being okay with those words to say, I don't have the capacity, and not feeling like you need to give a reason, an excuse, lie, whatever it is, just being okay with saying, no, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. And it doesn't have to be that you're busy and that's the reason you don't want to do X, Y, and Z. Your capacity level can look so much different than someone else's. So just because you can take on momming and work and wife and, board member and all these things, that looks so much different to someone else. And so we need to be accepting and okay with other people's boundaries in order for them to do the same.
Absolutely. And I think that goes for hours working too, right? Some people love working, and I have girlfriends who literally they'll work 80 hours a week, and I commend them for that. And sometimes I think that's probably not a choice because they're in this crazy season of their business where they're building. And I've been there and I've done that. And Jim and I just got back from a walk, and I looked at him and I said, I actually don't care if my business builds slowly. These are the things that are non-negotiable as well, right? So I think that capacity is, what are the things that you're just not willing to sacrifice? Is it the element of, I'm not willing to sacrifice my peace of mind. And so peace of mind looks like, people are always like, Shannon, why do you work out so much? That's how I get my peace of mind.
Yes, exactly.
That, I'm not doing it because I think you need to work out 90 minutes of a day or do 2 workouts a day. I'm doing that because I need to. I'm not doing it because, the benefit of having a rock hard body would be great, but that doesn't seem to be happening because they'll still like my cheeseburgers and they'll still like my French fries, as you
witnessed yesterday. Balance.
So but I'm not willing to cut something out of, I'm not willing to give up ice cream. I'll cut out other aspects of dairy that don't make me feel good, but I sure as shit really still love a good ice cream cone, and I'm not willing to give that up.
You are fire here. I hear you.
I say that all the time to my clients too. When we look at their financial picture, it's what are you from a lifestyle perspective? What don't you not want to have in your life? What can you not live without? Because we think all the time that we have to hit this rat race or we have to go, when really, what are the things that we define for ourselves in life? What gives us that peace of mind? And that, I think that rolls into that reigniting that purpose or that vision, right?
Yeah.
And getting very clear about that. What are some questions that people can ask themselves or dig deeper into when we start to think about vision casting, looking at, what does that mean? Because I think a lot of people are what does having a vision for my life mean? That feels really deep, Shannon and Jessica. I don't know if I'm that deep. I'm just trying to make sure there's some mac and cheese on the table for dinner tonight.
And that might be it though, right? That actually might be for you out there. That might be the thing that is the most important goal that you need to accomplish. Everyone's looks different. Mm-hmm. I think the piece for me, and I think the piece that I preach to my clients is, does it bring you joy? And not in oh, I feel happy, but does it give you that could scream from the rooftops? Mm-hmm. I think of my coaching business or my planning business, my event planning business. I was good at it. I think it was a content job. It filled a lot of different buckets for me. I could have gone on doing it probably until I retired. Fine job. But it wasn't that thing that gave me joy. It wasn't that thing that lit my soul on fire. And this was that year that I found that thing. And so I think finding that place for you, and it looks different for everyone, right? Like mine is in service of people. If I can serve someone and make them feel the way I'm feeling right now, or give them some of that little joy that I feel, my soul is on fire, right? But you need to figure out what that looks like for you. So that can be, I love journaling. I know it's not for everyone, and it doesn't need to be like, oh, dear diary, whatever. Like it can just be like, you know, like I know people, whenever they hear journaling, they're like, ooh, you know, some people are not into that. But I think even jotting down, like, I love the idea of jotting down what you're grateful for. Just having that awareness of these are the really great things that are going on in my life. Grateful. And then what are the things that you are striving for? What are the things that you want without question in your life? And when you're writing those things down, doesn't have to be, again, a whole Dear Diary situation. It can just be some bullet points. But I love the idea of writing it as it's happening right now. So not like, so for me, it was coaching. Like I want to be a successful coach. It wasn't, I want to be that. It was, I am. And I think just changing that language, it almost tricks your mind to be in that space that you've already got it. You've already attained it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm off on a tangent.
No, I think that that's so critical of saying, and I think you brought up a great point of like the passion and finding that passion. And although, you know, for the two of us, it's our careers. There are other things in life too, right? Like, so one of the things that I'm very passionate about, and I used to actually like shove down inside, was my creativity. And much of that stems from my dad, both my parents being very artsy and creative, which is why I have both sides of my brain constantly working and misfiring in all different directions. Because it's like, why is one side working? Why is this side working? But I realized that I needed much more of that in my life too, that I needed that creativity, both in my business, but personally. And so you mentioned journaling, and I had got to this block. I had journaled every day through 2020. I had, and before that, I was like this, you know, very faithful, get up, do my devotionals, you know, kind of have this reflection time, write every day type of thing. And then I hit this block where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not flowing for me. And one of my girlfriends came over to hang out with me and my daughters, and she's incredibly creative and wonderful. And she's also an attorney. So again, we have these weird brains. That don't most people, you know, either have the right brain or the left brain. And she brings out her journal, and felt tip pens are my absolute favorite. And she's like, started on a pen. I love a good pen. And she starts this like free journaling. And I had a speaking engagement that night. So she was hanging out with the girls, and I came upstairs and my counter was full of like journal activities that were artsy that my kids had done with her. And I was like, oh, it doesn't have to be just words, right? Or like, it doesn't have to be a full sentence. Like, let yourself flow. And we live in this space where it's just like kind of constantly like, here are the rules of what you have to look like. Or here are the 10 things that you need to do to be mindful, or whatever it might be. Everybody's got those things, but really it's just kind of looking like, oh man, I had hit this block, but I hadn't thought about doing it different. So I went out and I bought myself a new journal, Spoonful of Faith journal. Hello, local artists, supporting other women business owners in Twin Cities. I bought her journal and bought myself new felt tip pens, and I got to it, and I made it a thing where I was like, I'm going to do at least once a week, but I'm not going to feel like it's something that I have to do every single day. I'm going to do it when I feel like it's a place where I can interact. And I think so many times we start out the year feeling like we have to be in this very specific space, right? Oh, if I'm going to lose weight or if I'm going to save money, I got to do something every single day to get to that place. That age old, I hate this thing of people telling people that they have to save money by eliminating their fancy coffee in the morning. No, you just need to like actually spend less in all of your life and save more, not just the coffee.
Prioritize. If you love that coffee, then find something else to.
Again, what is it that you cannot live without?
There you go.
And fund that part of your life.
For everyone.
If you can live out without your Starbucks or your fancy coffee every morning, then eliminate that. If you can't, because that's the time you get to go network or you get your alone time, or it's the one treat you give yourself because you're working so damn hard. Like there are elements in our life, again, that have to be joy. Oh my goodness, I totally went down a tangent.
No, that's okay. I want to come back really quick to that part you said about the journaling, because it brought up something that I do with my clients. So visual journaling is a huge way to just switch our channels, right? Like, especially like when I'm coaching someone, it's all about, most of it is questions, powerful questions, because I do believe everything you have, you already have within you. Mm-hmm. I am not creating a new thought for you. I'm just helping you source those answers, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes we get stuck, right? Like I can question. And sometimes you're like, I don't know. So movement is really good, right? Move around the room. See, get into a different location, journal, draw a picture, source where that feeling is in your body. There are just so many different ways that you can do that. But I love that idea. It's just, it doesn't have to be writing on your lined paper what your affirmations are or what you're grateful for. It can just be drawing a picture of you on the beach with your kids because you really want to take a vacation this winter.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like having been raised by artists, I never drew because I was not very good at it. My mother will tell you something different, but like moms are always supposed to say like, we're good at stuff. Right.
Totally.
And in comparison, which is a horrible space to live in sometimes, but our dear friend Shannon does this drawing every year, and then she colors it in throughout the year. And her drawing is like, what does she want her vision for her life to look like for that year? Yeah. And then she sits down and she colors it in a little bit by a little bit every week. And I looked at her drawing and I was like, there's no possible way. I love this idea, and mine will not look like hers. It will look like a bunch of stick figures or a kindergartner drew it.
Which is okay, right?
But I was like, well, what I can do, I might not be able to make it look like hers, but I can make it look like this, right? Rather than getting stuck in this space of, I can't do it, or like, I can do it. This is what it reframes into, right. And looks like from a different perspective as well.
I love that. And I also love the idea of, I'm reading the happiness equation. I don't know. I'm not going to know the author off the top of my head. It's Neil something, but I'm reading that. And he had such a good point about the cycle of doing things, right? Like first we think we have to want to do it. Then we have to feel like we know how to do it, and then we can do it. And he's like, well, what if we just shift that? And instead of having the want and the knowing first, we actually just do, right? And I have been in this space over the last year of just do messy. It does not have to be perfect. I'm a former perfectionist. I am an event planner type A. If it's not all packaged pretty, it makes me sweat. But I am in this space of like, just go for it. Mm-hmm. Just go for it. I say all the time, action creates clarity. If you get out there and do, you'll figure it out. You will figure it out every single time. And it might not look how you had cast the vision in January to look, but you are going to figure out what other steps you need to take or what you need to adjust to make an even better vision for yourself.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I think we oftentimes beat ourselves up, especially as recovering perfectionists. Yes. I can so appreciate that part of things. Because we don't want it to look messy to the outside world. We won't want, people to, and women, I'm just going to call us all out. We are the most judgmental of ourselves and other people.
That's funny. Yes.
We live in this era. I mean, it happened to our mothers and our mothers' mothers of, everything having to look in this space of perfect. Right. And I joked about hot girl summer, right? Where everybody like gets ready, like, oh, I can't put a bathing suit on because I got cellulite or whatever. I got an extra roll on the front. And who cares? Put it on. It's hotter than Hades out in Minnesota right now. Put on a damn bikini and rock it.
Oh, yes. Yes, I am in that season. And I don't know if that comes with age and just not caring anymore. Some of that could be that, but I think it is also just being in the space of self-awareness and just knowing that it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff actually doesn't matter. And no one actually cares. It's all in our head. Your friend
because everybody else is caring about themselves. Like they're thinking about something that isn't right with them, that they're not thinking about something that's not right with you.
Totally.
But we think that they are, but they're really thinking about something else. And so if we just all focused on ourselves, I think that would be a great space. And I think having those key individuals around you who, I don't even love the word of hold you accountable, but remind you of, your greatness, remind you of what you're capable, remind you that you can do the things that you've set out to be able to do. Right. I shared a big dream with you yesterday and you did that for me. And as we find those people in our lives, it becomes more and more. Sometimes you have to put yourself out there to be able to do that. Right. And even on social media,
real scary.
And Jessica and I bonded over Instagram, but Jessica went to high school with my husband. So they're, roundabout, go figure, elements of things but when you put yourself out there and you make yourself human, you do make those real connections that allow you to, dig a little bit deeper and open those layers of that onion and peel it back.
And I love it. I was so scared putting myself out there. Like the moment that I unprivated, I don't know how you say it, made my account public.
Yeah.
Not unprivated, was terrifying. And for stories, terrifying. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like I want to inspire others to do the same thing. Show up messy. I do love a little lipstick. I love a little lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
I also will show up on a story with no makeup on, maybe haven't brushed my teeth. Sorry.
It's okay. We can't smell your breath. It's totally fine.
I know, it's fine. But I want people to see the authentic, the picture perfect square is not real. It is not real. I want them to see the messy. I want them to see the vulnerable because that's the places where we create change.
Yes.
If we are in that vulnerable, if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, if we let other people give them the space to be vulnerable, that's where we're going to see the real change. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And it's that perfect time to also hit reset. If you haven't got to the space of where you are right now, maybe it is because you need to be a little bit more vulnerable. Maybe you need to peel up a couple layers back to be able to do the real work, right? Even you and I have shared before that it isn't always that we know everything. We're constantly rediscovering things or learning things. And although we might be two individuals sharing our lived experience on this podcast right now, that doesn't mean that that you, the listener, doesn't have your own lived experience for you to be able to experience and get vulnerable and rediscover yourself through. So any last minute pieces of advice that you would have for our listeners as they go into the rest of this year, visioning for their lives, what they want?
Yes. I think the last piece that we just talked about is probably the most important, is just allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to just do it messy, do it scared, but just go for it. Go for it. And I could preach this a million times over, that action creates clarity. We just need to do, and the right things will come to you. action creates clarity every single time. Just put yourself out there and believe that you can do it. I am a big believer. I could go on forever about this, but I will not, in manifesting your life, and not maybe in the woo-woo way, but not even in the woo-woo way, because it's really just saying, this is what I want for my life. And once you say that out loud and you believe it, you are going to put yourself in spaces that are going to allow you to create that life that you want. So put it out there, believe in what you want to do and what you want to achieve, and you'll get there.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Jessica, if people want to hang out with you or hire you as a coach,
yes, either one. I like to hang out. I like to coach.
Or Jessica didn't plug this either, but she also does speaking engagements. She'll come in and talk to your group, motivate your team, whatever it might look like. Where can everybody hang out with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, so Jessica Horton Coaching. And then I also have a website. It is jessicahortoncoaching.com. Not very original. And I will say one other piece. I'm starting a women's group, a women's community with my business partner, Karen, called Definers. It's Definers with a Y, so D-E-Y-F, wait, D-E-F-Y-N-E-R-S. It's easier when you write it down. Anyway, we're going to be launching that in the summer. Just really a space for women to network, collaborate, have that community and that space where we can start having those discussions about living a more intentional life, because that is what it's all about. So those are my three plugs.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today and hanging out on the Thrive Forward podcast. I look forward to having you back sometime soon.
Thank you so much, Shannon.